What's going on, insecticidal gang? I'm here again. I got a couple requests. You know, it's Sarracenia dormant bare root rhizome season. A lot of the big nurseries and people are offering their divisions up for sale. For one, it's just a little less expensive to ship them right now because you can uproot them, take all the dirt off, clip all the traps off, and end up with something this big versus, you know, 2-3 feet tall. You end up with something a little more compact and just easier to send it through the mail. So a lot of people want to know, well, how do I plant my plant when I get it? So let's see. I have one. This one wasn't purchased as a dormant rhizome. I've actually had this plant for a couple months now, but it needed to be repotted really bad. So I'm gonna go through that process with you and see if that helps somebody. I'll see you in a second. All right, so I'm gonna be off camera mostly. You'll just have my hands today. So today, the plant that we're going to be dealing with is this dormant Leucophylla rhizome. It's got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 9 growth points, and the 10th one coming in right there in the back. So you can see it's a pretty sizable growth point. It's a pretty sizable rhizome, sorry. This is the main stem. It's branching out into two like a Y, and then it's shooting left and right, and you can see. So you got a nice set of roots. I'd like to see a rhizome this big have a more substantial or robust root system. This plant was kept in a lot of water in this thing. So I'm putting it back in the pot that it was in because it's a nice sized pot for this plant. But it was only potted up to like maybe this point right here. So the roots don't have much space. So we're gonna remedy that today. So when you're potting up a Sarracenia rhizome like this, you kind of have to, plan around the different heights. Like this growth point right here sits lower than the rest of them. So I don't want to bury this one by putting these at ground level. So what I'm gonna end up doing is putting the soil line going right across the bottom of this growth point. The rest of these will sit up a little bit, but what'll happen is in the future, they'll just send roots down and start rooting themselves in those areas. And these things are like an onion. You just peel away some of the dead stuff when you're cleaning it up. Like some of these smaller growth points, you got to be really, really careful because they're so tender, you'll end up pulling the whole growth point off trying to clean them up. So most of them I'll leave alone, unless you just see some super obvious stuff like this, or you could just pull it away. And you see all this green, fleshy, reddish, that's good. That's what you want to see. That means this is a healthy plant. It's alive and well. All of that is good. I was a little concerned about this, but I think it's where a flower bud came out of it, so I'm not too worried about it. But let's get it going. So we're using the same pot that this thing came out of. I've been experimenting, shout out to my good friend Fred. He puts Scotch-Brite in the bottom of his pots to cover the drain holes so that you don't lose peat. And if somebody tells you that you don't lose peat out the bottom drain holes, they are not telling you the truth. This plant was sitting in a saucer, and that saucer has dirt in it. So, I'm gonna cover those holes up. A lot of people use long fiber sphagnum moss. You can use pretty much whatever you want as long as it's inert. It doesn't, it's not gonna add minerals or anything to the soil. Long fiber sphagnum moss is expensive, so I'd rather use it sparingly or for things other than filling the bottom of pots with it. So if you saw my other video where I was using the mixer to mix up my potting medium, this is the same stuff I mixed up that day. So I'm using, it's 4 parts peat moss, 1 part sand, 1 part perlite. So it gives you a 2-to-1 ratio. So the only thing I want to do with the Scotch-Brite at the bottom of the pot, I just want to make sure I sit the peat in there to where it doesn't move them. So I'm going to be very careful with these first couple of scoops to make sure that they don't get moved. I want them to stay where they are. And then I'll just check. As long as I can see green, this hole is kind of jacked up, but I still see green behind it. We're good to go. So then, I'm just fill it in. So I like to pot my plants sitting up. So it's gonna sit about right there, if you can see that. So the roots are now touching the peat, so I have to just kind of hold this plant in place while I toss the dirt in around it. And like I said, just be careful that you don't knock off the growth points, especially those smaller ones, because they can be a little tender. This one will probably need to be repotted again next year into a bigger pot. But I don't feel like dealing with trying to go out there and try to find a bigger pot for it at this moment. So it'll just live its life in this pot for this season coming up. So now what I like to do is pull it up, suspend the plant up, and then knock the pot down like that. That'll knock out some air pockets and also give you full contact with the roots and the growing medium. So I'm just lifting it up just a little bit, and they're not as delicate as people you can knock them around, you can pull them, you can stretch them a little bit within reason. You know, I'm not gonna break roots off or anything like that. But it's sitting about where I want it to sit. Now, you don't want to bury the rhizome, the growth points, and all of that good stuff too much. The rhizome on them sit just below or right at ground level. And it's a lot of water in this peat. Just from the peat was sitting out in the rain all weekend. Oh, I'm sorry. That's gonna be about it. Just fill in a couple of these empty spots. Right there. So I always recommend watering your plant in once you get it potted, and that'll get a lot of this dirt and stuff off of the growth points that got, you know, covered in dirt during the potting process. And for that, I got my trusty pump spray bottle. So you just hit it with a good blast of water, and that'll uncover those growth points. Make the dirt settle around them instead of right on top of them. And I'm gonna go back to the fine spray so that it's not as disruptive. Yeah. be good. You can see that was super easy. I just want to bring it up so you can see the planting depth. Those growth points are not covered up. They're not buried. They're sitting right at ground level, which is perfectly fine. That's exactly what you want. All right, so we're gonna do another one, because I know the first video I was a little off camera without knowing. So I'm gonna just do this in the run-of-the-mill 3.5-inch nursery pot. These are 3.5-inch square pots, and they're 5 inches tall. So I already pre-cut these so that they'll fit in the bottom. So I'm just shove it down in there. Boom. And then, of course, we're gonna fill it up with some medium. This is another leucophylla rhizome that I got. And you can see this thing's got a decent amount of roots. I mean, it'll pretty much fill the pot immediately. But I'm gonna just throw it in here for now. Same deal though. I want it to sit about right there. I figure I always like to plant mine diagonal in the square pots because it'll give you a little extra room for it to grow, because this thing is gonna grow across the pot. Of course, I'm just running this all around it. And I always, like I said about the other plant, I always like to hold the plant up to about where I want it potted. And then I'm gonna hold it and then knock the pot down, because I don't want it to settle under the rim of the pot. So that's where I want it to sit. And now I'll just backfill around it. Just gotta get some in the front. Nice and cozy. So I like, my practice is, or my method is, I cover the rhizome about halfway with medium. I leave the top part of the rhizome exposed. That gives it some air, that lets it get some sun. Even the rhizome benefits from getting some sun exposure. So that's what we're looking at. That's it from the side. I hope this helps somebody. If you have any questions, leave a comment. See you guys soon.